Hello, good morning and welcome to ET Now's the newspaper show with me, Varun Hiremat. We hope you're having a good weekend, and for the next 30 minutes we'll be bringing you the major headlines from the Economic Times as well as the Times of India. But before we go any further, let me remind you that the newspapers are completely safe. Please go to wantmypaper.com where you can explore delivery options for the newspapers to your residence. I repeat again, wantmypaper.com if you are interested in getting the newspaper delivered to your residence. With that being said, let's get a move on, and it's quite a full lineup we have for you this morning. Top 10 headlines from the Economic Times. Let's kick them off. The government seeks auto supply chain details to curb imports. Nod to Bharat Biotech for trials of the COVID vaccine. Railways cancel tender for Vande Bharat trains. Production-linked SOPs for labour-intensive sectors coming soon. The IT department to map digital profiles of taxpayers. Dream 11, purely an Indian firm, Fantasy Sports CEO. Army seeks to corporatize Ordnance Factory Board. Harley Davidson to scale down but not exit India. Government may drop question R in monsoon session. And FB India MD need to do more to tackle hate speech. Although the market's not open, we're still going to bifurcate for you market versus corporate. And let's kick off the top 5 market headlines for this morning, beginning with the fact that the RBI has purchased $12.8 billion of US Treasury papers in June. Buoyant markets will definitely correct, says the RBI Governor. Spectrum users to pay AGR dues of AILING Telcos, says the Supreme Court. PSU banks will need 2 lakh crore in 2 years, says Moody's. Pre-packaged resolution plan for stressed firms. Let's now get a feel for the corporate headlines this morning. German firm may operate 3 Adani airports. Biani RIL talks to hinge on 100 crore interest payout. Trade secret suit, US court lowers damages that TCS owes. Hyderabad-based MEIL to build Zojila Pass tunnel in J&K. And former Goldman fund manager buys Yes Bank's mutual fund business. Okay, so those are the individual stories for this morning. Individual headlines rather. Let's now get a move on with our individual stories. And this one's on page 3 of this morning's Economic Times. And it seems that in a bid to curb imports and promote indigenous manufacturing, the Indian government has sought detailed information from automobile manufacturers on investments they have made within the country. Imports made by the industry and localization levels across value chains are also being sought amid the India-China standoff in eastern Ladakh. But Karishma, my colleague who tracks the sector and this story closely, is going to walk us through the fine print. Over to you, Karishma.
Well, about a quarter of India's imports of auto components come from China, and this has been the case that has set the basis for this meeting, especially after what has happened with consumer sentiments around the India-China issue that has been going on for months now. In fact, Commerce Ministry held a meeting with industry and has learnt on this that industry has no choice rather than to depend on these imports of auto components of vehicle manufacturing from China. China is the leading import market for this, followed by Germany. Well, the government's initiative now and focus is to now push for manufacturing and localization. That is to have a look at the kind of investments that could come into this sector, and in case they could move on manufacturing auto vehicle components in India, that could not only curb and cut down the dependency on China, but will also bring about a more Atmanirbhar Bharat concept true to the auto sector in the country.
All right, thanks for that, Karishma. But switching gears to a very important development, page 3 of the Economic Times, and my colleague Pankaj, who's with us now. Good morning, Pankaj. Welcome to the show. Is going to walk us through this story, but let me just give you a little introduction. The DGC, a Drug Controlling General of India, on Friday gave approval to Hyderabad-based Bharat Biotech to test administer its COVID-19 experimental vaccine through the skin. So, Pankaj, why through the skin, and what will happen if these tests come out positive, or is this just too early to comment on it?
So, Varun, firstly, it's too early to comment on it. But again, if you maintain, there are about 4 different companies in India that are doing different kind of various tech. Bharat Biotech, of course, is also one of the leads as far as this company goes. And now, as you just pointed out, that DGCI has given a very, very interesting approval. This is to begin intermediate trial of vaccine. So, Varun, the history of vaccine is not particularly that great. So, whenever you've had vaccines coming in for various drugs, it's really not been so fast tracked, and such a sort of a situation that you need a vaccine tomorrow itself. And that's why a lot of experiments are going on, and that is the need of the hour as well. So it is interesting to see what happens. How essentially it goes through. It will be across 12 different cities, which they would be doing this with different kind of volunteers. The process, will help an easy vaccine if it is tested positive. But again, Varun, I would just like to highlight that, the vaccine history for an emergency has not been there so far. So we don't know what are the side effects. Any vaccine, not only for this, for any vaccine in the world, the interesting thing to see is it's not very difficult to make a vaccine. The thing is that it should not have any side effects, and it should not have any impact as far as, healthy volunteers and healthy people are concerned. And that is the most interesting aspect. So with this, probably you get a sense that, they will be able to get the test early. They will be able to give it to more people. It's a different sort of a vaccine than you generally, tend to take. It also reduces, the pre-injection cost for a vaccine. So a lot of positives are there, but, the main thing is that you have to test for the negatives, and that's what they are doing. Across 12 different cities, they are hunting for volunteers. In fact, they would be having volunteers, and then they would go ahead and, make these tests, share the results. And if, as things go by, and if essentially the rate of, side effects is lower, then probably it would get approved as well. But definitely at this point of time, companies are trying different methods, different ways. There are a lot of other methods in which vaccine has been given on various trial basis. Let's see what comes out, but this is a daily news till the time vaccine is out. And Bharat Biotech, of course, it's trying its best to go ahead and, complete and release a good vaccine with a good data.
Right, Pankaj. Like you said, we're all very optimistic on this one, and we hope that whether it's Bharat Biotech or one of the other Indian firms, that they all make headway soon and that we have a vaccine by early next year. But thanks for bringing us that important story. Always great to get perspective from you. Let's now move forward from pharma to Facebook. And we have a couple of other stories as well. Page 1 of the Economic Times. Now, Facebook has denounced hate and bigotry on its platform and acknowledged that it has to do more, while maintaining at the same time that it has been an open, transparent and non-partisan site for people to express themselves freely. Chandra, good morning. Welcome to the show. What's your read on this most recent developments at Facebook?
So, Varun, it's clear that they are swinging into damage control mode now amidst the political row in the last few weeks. Wall Street journals report that Facebook failed to flag off certain posts as hate speech because these leaders belong to the BJP, has set off a slugfest between the Congress and the BJP, and the Facebook top officials have now been summoned by the parliamentary panel for IT. So that's the reason why you have Facebook India's top boss Ajit Mohan writing this blog saying that the platform has always been open, transparent and non-partisan. He's also spoken about how they've been accused of bias in the way they enforce their policies. He said that they take allegations of bias very seriously and they want to make it clear that they denounce hate and bigotry in any form. He's also said that community standards are clear and they have very detailed policies against hate speech, which prohibit attacks on people on the basis of religion, ethnicity, or caste. But he's also acknowledged that they have a long way to go before tackling hate speech, and they will be doing a lot more to take down offensive content in pages. So this is Facebook in damage control mode now after they've come under criticism in the last few days on the way they manage content on their platform, on the way they enforce policies with respect to hate speech. He's also said that they are willing to cooperate with the government, which I think is a reference to the fact that they've been summoned by the parliamentary panel for IT. So it'll be interesting to see how they tackle that challenge and what their justification is going to be before the parliamentary panel whenever they depose.
Right, Chandra. Thanks for bringing us that important update. But do stay on because we need you to walk us through another one. And this one's on page 4 of the Economic Times. An IT giant TCS in focus as it's been ordered to pay damages of $140 million in a trade secret suit filed by the US-based software firm Epic Systems. This is roughly half of the original damages, so at least it's a lot less than $280 million. But TCS believes that it has not misused information of Epic Systems and is exploring all legal options. So Chandra, how likely is it that TCS is going to get out of this one? Or do you think getting away with half the original charge is good enough?
On the face of it, it looks like a partial release to TCS, but I think they would have hoped for a lot more. This is an old suit. This goes way back to 2014 when Epic had filed a lawsuit against TCS, alleging that TCS had stolen its intellectual property. In 2016, Epic actually won a jury award of $940 million, almost close to $1 billion. And in 2017, the Wisconsin court judge lowered the award to $420 million. And this has again been reduced to $140 million. But TCS is not really backing down. They believe that there is no evidence of misuse of Epic information by it. So it will explore the options available and that it will vigorously defend its position before the relevant court. So the fact that they've managed to bring down the original amount from $940 million to $140 million is certainly positive. But TCS is not stopping there. They believe they have a strong case. So perhaps this will yet again be appealed in a different court and hopefully we will see the final damages come down again.
All right, thanks for that, Chandra. So based on what she just told us, 1,000 crores, 140 million is a lot better figure to pay than 2,000 crores. But nonetheless, even for a company like TCS, that's a pretty hefty fine. So hopefully they can find more and more legal recourse to kind of bring that down. But thanks, Chandra. Great to get perspective from you, as always. Let's now switch gears yet again, and from IT and Facebook over to AGR and Telecom. And the Department of Telecommunications has said it's up to the Supreme Court to decide whether Reliance Jio Infocom is liable for the adjusted gross revenue AGR dues of RCom with regard to the traded and shared spectrum. So let's cut across to my colleague Abhimanyu for more.
The Supreme Court has asked the DoT Secretary to file an affidavit on the AGR dues to be paid by users of shared spectrum. He's also supposed to file a reply on the past AGR dues and the dates of grant and transfer of licenses between various telecom companies, while the top court has deferred hearing for the 24th of August in the AGR case. The top court asked different telecom companies if AGR had already been paid by spectrum users as per the top court's earlier order, while Videocon Telecom submitted that there was transfer of spectrum which took place to Bharti Airtel, but there was no AGR demand which was raised by the DoT. The top court made it clear that once there is a transfer of spectrum, it's either Videocon or Bharti Airtel's liability to pay the AGR dues. And who is going to pay those dues is something which is going to be decided by the top court. Bharti Airtel and Reliance Jio also said that DoT had not raised any AGR demands from them. Also, Videocal's resolution professional told the top court that the waterfall mechanism and the insolvency and bankruptcy code will apply to all government debts as per past top court verdicts. However, the court made it clear that as per trading guidelines, past dues need to be cleared before any transfer of spectrum between telecom companies.
Okay, thanks for that, Abhimanyu. Very interesting. We'll all be looking out for that one closely. But let's switch gears now yet again away from telecom to airports and the Adani Group. And this one's on page 1 of this morning's Economic Times. And it seems that the Adani Group is likely to rope in Flughafen München GmbH, which is obviously a German company in case you can't guess. And they currently operate the Munich airport. So they do have domain expertise in airport management. It's likely that Adani is going to hand over 3 of their airports over to this German company. The locations for these airports are Ahmedabad, Mangaluru and Lucknow. So these airports had been won by Adani in a privatization bid earlier on. Now they're going to hand over the management to this German firm, which seems to have perhaps a higher level of expertise than they might. What's another rumor that's also trending, but it's yet to be solidified, is that the Adani Group may soon be operating the Bombay airports as well, as GVK might be looking at an exit from there, but that's at this point not confirmed by any kind of news break, so let's just leave it there. But it is something that's also circling in the market. Okay, with that being said, let's now move on to our next story, and or bite rather. The Election Commission has issued guidelines for polls, which will be held amidst the pandemic. The nomination filing is to be done online. For the first time, the candidate shall deposit security money online. The number of persons, including the candidate for door-to-door campaigning, will be limited to 5. Not happy with the Election Commission's guidelines, the Congress party has said they fall far short for the conduct of free, fair and independent elections and in ensuring smooth conduct of poll in free, non-partisan, fair fashion without giving undue advantage to the ruling party. For more details, let's go across to Tamanna in Ambar.
The Election Commission has issued guidelines for how polls will be conducted ahead of the Bihar Assembly polls. These polls are due to be conducted in October or November, and dates will be out next month. But the question is, how do you hold an assembly election in the time of COVID-19? Well, some very detailed guidelines being put out by the Election Commission today. First up, everyone will be masked. All the centers will have thermal scanners, and each person entering will be scanned once they come in to cast their vote, or whether they're polling officers as well. Let me first talk about what the experience will be like for voters. So there will be thermal scanning on entry to the polling booth. If your temperature is higher than the prescribed limit, you will be scanned once more after a short pause and a short wait. If you are still exceeding the limit, you will be asked to come back to vote in the last hour of polling. Even those who have tested COVID-19 positive or are in quarantine will be given an opportunity to cast their vote. They can come to the polling sector in the last 1 hour of polling. Those who cannot come to the polling center also have been given an option this time. The pool of people who can cast their vote via postal ballot has been expanded to include senior citizens above the age of 80, personnel who are in very important and essential tasks related to COVID-19, and some COVID-19 patients can also cast their vote through postal ballot. So the Election Commission has made every arrangement to make sure that every citizen gets to exercise their fundamental right to vote. Now, what about the candidates? There are limitations on candidates going door to door for canvassing, so not more than 5, not more than 2 supporters can turn up to even file nomination. Nomination forms are available online. Even the deposit money can now be transferred online for the first time. What we'll have to see is how all of this is actually implemented to make sure there are no large crowds which could possibly increase the spread of COVID-19.
Okay, thanks for that, Tamanna. Definitely a very important process. We all need to vote, but we need to make sure we do it safely. So that was Tamanna with what the polls are likely to be like this time. But let's switch gears. We're winding down to the end of the show this morning. Before we do, top 5 headlines from the Times of India, which we're still to address. Beginning with, don't wait for Kamath report to rejig the loans, says the RBI. 9 killed in Telangana power plant inferno. Highest August rains in 9 years. An orange alert once again in Mumbai. Toys to comply with the BIS in blow to Chinese firms. And COVID patients can vote in the last hour in Bihar, says the EC. So those were the major headlines this morning. Thank you so much for tuning into the newspaper show. Keep it with ET now. We have plenty lined up and more news-related stuff coming up at 11. But before that, news for the hearing impaired.